sometimes I don't know if the universe is cruel or just maybe a little too clever. And I was going to say for its own good, but of course that wouldn't, the universe can't be too clever for its own good. Maybe it's too clever for our own good. So I watched the video about the wounded warrior, right? About if you have Chiron either conjunct, square, or opposite your sun, moon, ascendant, Mercury, Mars, or Venus in your natal chart. And it just, the video spoke volumes to me, particularly because it made me reflect on my childhood. So this video is not going to be, it's not going to be like about a dream or about a download. This is about a discovery. And when it comes to me, there are like times where there are times where things are not shown to me until after I've learned the lesson or until after I've got over the hurdle. Even when I got into spirituality, I kept having all these dreams of like passed over loved ones coming to me in my dreams and saying, don't be afraid, don't be afraid. It's time now. It's time now. Remember who you are. And I was like, what are you talking about? Like, just tell me, like, what are you talking about? And it wasn't until I started lighting that candle, until I built my ancestor altar, until I started doing my prayers and getting closer and giving offerings, that it took, I want to say, about a year of me working with my ancestors before I had the dream where I was told spiritually who I am. And sometimes, like for me, and this is because of who my higher self is, and it's because of the particular mission that I chose, right? My higher self is a warrior. My higher self is a fierce warrior. And when I finally was told who I was, I started having all of these dreams, right? All of these dreams where I'm like battling, right? I mean, alone. Like I had dreams where I am battling demonic armies by myself, right? I have dreams where I am fighting dragons by myself. I have dreams where I am literally taking down entities, right, by myself. My higher self is fierce. So you know how they say like, this is like the time that we're living in where some higher beings chose to come down to help change the dynamics. And then you'll also have others say that like Earth is a school. So some of us come down so that we can experience a specific lesson and then we can elevate, right? We can elevate, our higher selves can elevate on the plane where we actually exist. That Earth is a school for me. Earth is a school for me. That's probably why. And like I say, when I say things, I never mean to diminish anyone else's experience. Like I'm not here to diminish anyone else's experience. But for me, the things that go on Earth with like the politics and the economy, I don't care too much about any of that, right? I don't care too much about any of that, and I don't let that worry me. But I understand for others, you know, your mission or maybe the lesson that you came to learn might be either poverty or lack or how to overcome certain things. Or if you were someone who came down, if you were chosen one who came down to change the dynamics, then you have to overcome those hurdles, and then you have to help others to overcome those hurdles, right? But you have to do it first, right? So especially if you're feeling extremely weighed down, extremely, I want to get like bogged down, right? With specific aspects. Those are the hurdles that you are meant to overcome first. And then you go back and you teach others how to overcome them, right? But if you don't learn the lesson and overcome it, then you're going to be forever stuck in that loop, forever stuck in the lesson until you come out of it, which is hard, right? It's hard. But I digress, right? I said sometimes I don't know if the universe is cruel or maybe just too clever for our own good. But I am not shown things until after I learn the lesson, right? So let's get back to Chiron. Chiron is heavy. Well, let me say this before I get back. Because of my higher self is a fierce warrior, right? And I run with some heavy hitters, right? I have some heavy hitters on my team that my higher self is like my spiritual brothers and sisters, my spiritual father, right? I have some heavy hitters on my team, right? So I'm heavily protected. Even when I can feel or I can sense or I'm having dreams of people who are spiritually attacking me, it never reaches me. I'm having dreams and I'm being given specific names. Like one video that I was going to release, but I'm thinking this one might jump the line too, was like smiling in your face. And I did a video it's probably about a year ago. No, it's some months ago. It was some months ago. It was earlier this year where I was given a download. And speaking of like smiling in your face, you know, I won't even get into that. I'll wait. And I might, I might even just save this story for that video. Let me go back and edit that video and I'll save this story. But it's like, the people who like are always congratulating you, or not always, let me say this. The people sometimes that you have to watch out for, or maybe the ones that are trying a little bit too hard to pretend like they're in your corner, right? And I'll say that. sometimes the ones that you have to watch out for are the ones that are pretending a little too hard that they're in your corner. Some of the people who are pretending to be your biggest supporters behind the scenes are actually the ones attacking you the hardest. And that was a download that I got. I had like one subscriber who used to comment all the time, and I had a download that this person was actually trying to spiritually attack me. For what reason, I have no idea. And I posted a video talking about that. And that person has not commented on any of my videos since, right? And I've since gone back and like deleted a lot of their past comments. But anyways, there are like certain things, right? With my higher self being, like I said, a warrior, excuse me. I don't know why allergies, we're not even in fall yet, and already like my allergies are bad. But it's like the older I get, the worse. I've never had allergy problems. But anyways, it's like for me, my higher self is such an outspoken, a fierce, a take action. My higher self can sometimes be hot-headed. My higher self is, you know what, those people who are like, what is it, like, shoot first, ask questions later? That's how my higher self is. Like, yeah, sometimes can be a little bit much, right? But the lesson that I came to Earth to learn was the lesson that I came to Earth to learn, right, was what it's like to not have that strength, what it's like to not have that voice. So because of that, I pulled my natal chart, right? And I pulled my natal chart back when I first started my spiritual journey. And I really was looking at it to see, like, I know what my sun sign is, but where the sun is in my chart, where the moon is in my chart, where my good luck, where my Jupiter is, right? In my chart, I really wasn't looking at it, trying to pinpoint out the negative aspects. So I remember seeing Chiron heavy in several places in my natal chart, but I didn't pay much attention to it because I was like, I don't want to know where all the negative aspects. Maybe I'm hitting like accentuate the positives, right? But anyways, I kept having dreams, right? I kept having dreams specifically with a family member. And I'm going to give detail. I normally don't do videos where I give like specific details about my life, but I'm going to do this one just in case this might help someone else. If you grew up in a household where at a young age, you had a family member that really, really, really made it their personal mission to like stifle your growth, right? Or like stifle your confidence. But growing up, right? Or actually, before I get there, let me talk about Chiron, right? So I pulled my natal chart, and I pulled both my Western and my Vedic, right? My Eastern, my Vedic natal charts, and Chiron is heavy in both aspects. So I saw that video, right? And I watched it. And when I tell you, this woman was like basically speaking my childhood in a nutshell, right? So in this video, she talks about having Chiron either conjunct, square, or opposite your, your ascendant, your sun, your moon, your Mars, your Mercury, or your Venus, right? So in my Vedic, let me start with the Vedic because it's a little bit more simplified than my Western astrology chart. So in my Vedic astrology chart, I have Chiron conjunct Mercury and Mars in my 8th house, right, of intimacy. And when I watched the video, of course, Mercury, having Chiron conjunct Mercury is like not speaking up for yourself, right? Feeling unheard, right? And also it could be, there were like some negative aspects too of someone who like struggles to tell the truth. But for me, it was always struggling to speak up. If you have Chiron conjunct Mars, that is the failure to take action, right? So then I looked at that and I was like, yeah, definitely struggled with that in my childhood, right? Struggled with that all the way up into the point of, well, no, not into the point of me reaching spirituality kind of calmed me down a little bit because I struggled so much with not speaking up and not taking action that for a period of my life, in my mid to late 20s, I was on like a warpath where like every battle, like, you know, they say like choose your battles wisely. I chose everyone. After spending my entire childhood and the first part of my early adulthood, not choosing any battles, not speaking up, not taking action, from my mid 20s to my late 20s, I went through a period where I chose every battle. And of course, that was just as, just as destructive, right? Oh, my nose. I don't know why this starts when I'm trying to record. Normally it happens when I'm outside, but I'm not even outside. But anyways, so I put my Western natal chart, right? I have Chiron in my 7th house of, relationships, partnerships, and I have it conjunct the sun and Venus. And of course, the 7th house is what? Opposite of our ascendant. The 7th house is opposite the 1st house, with the 1st house being your ascendant. So I have Chiron in every aspect, in terms of like the major aspects of what considers you a wounded healer. I have Chiron either conjunct or opposite every aspect except for my moon. And the strange thing about it is I actually, I stopped watching so much tarot, right? I stopped watching so much. I went through a period where I was like hooked on tarot, where I would watch not every video, but like as many as I could. And I had to stop that, right? Definitely was spreading my energy too thin. And besides, and I got to a point where I was like trying to force storylines to fit, even though they had like nothing to do with what I was going through. So I had to like desubscribe or unsubscribe, excuse me, from like every freaking tarot channel that I was watching. Then I had to go through and scrub I had to clear my entire history on YouTube so that that stuff would no longer be popping up, right? So now the ones that do pop up, I know that it's because Spirit is like, there's a message here that you actually need to see. But the thing about it is, even before I came to this realization about Chiron, I always watched videos for my moon sign. You know, when I learned about the sun, the moon, and the ascendant, and how the moon and the ascendant play a bigger aspect of you than your sun sign. Actually, the sun sign is more of just a personality, right? Your moon is your true self, your inner self, where your shadow work and where all that needs to be done, like the inner you. Whereas they say your ascendant is how people see you, right? But anyways, with the moon sign being the inner me, and then looking, and you know, here we are years later after having watched so many different videos about which planets and this and that, and you know, even some, like I said, Vedic, where they're talking about K2 and Ra and where they are in your natal chart. My moon sign, like I said, I have Chiron either conjunct opposite every aspect of the wounded healer except for my moon. My moon sign is literally my only sign where I have some good luck, right? The astrological sign, the zodiac sign, I'm sorry, that is in my moon is actually a favorable one. And the planet that rules that zodiac sign, I have in my natal chart. My moon is in the house. Because you know, like sometimes your chart will be like a little different. Like you might have a sun sign. Let's say you have a Aries sun, but then you pull your natal chart and your sun might be in like your fifth house with like, well, I was gonna say Libra, but Libra is opposite of Aries. Your sun might be in your fifth house with Capricorn or something, right? My moon is actually in the house of the sign that it's in, and the planet that rules that zodiac sign is in that house conjunct the moon, and it's favorable. Like with the moon being my shadow work, right? You would think that I would have some conflict there, but when it comes to my shadow work, I have zero conflict. When it comes to my moon, everything is favorable. Right. So I was like, I watched a lot of tarot videos surrounding my moon sign. Right. And that's why for me, shadow work is so big. With my moon being my favorable sign and with shadow work being favorable for me, a lot of times I'm not shown the lessons until after I have mastered them, which might I add, it sucks, right? It absolutely sucks. And if you are a wounded warrior or wounded, I kept saying warrior, even in the other video where I talked about it, I kept saying wounded warrior when it's a wounded healer. Right, I misspoke. I think the entirety throughout that video. I meant to say wounded healer. It's like when other people come to me with their problems, I'm like, I have the answer. This is what you should do. This is what you should do. And even though I know it's hard to take those steps, it's like I don't know how to get it through to people that like this is the answer to your problems. And that fear, you are allowing fear to stop you from taking the step that would solve all of your problems, right? But it's always easier said than done. And as a wounded healer myself, I recognize that, right? I recognize that. So let me get to what I actually want to talk about. And I'm going to try to make this brief because I don't want to make this extremely long. So this is what I mean when I say the universe is either clever or slightly cruel, or there's duality. Maybe there's a little bit of combination of both. So, y'all remember the show Golden Girls? This is probably for my older audience. I don't know if you're younger, maybe your mom, dad, no, I doubt your dad. Maybe your mom may have watched old reruns, or maybe you went to your grandma's house and your grandma watched it. If you remember the show Golden Girls, we watched it growing up, right? Being like an 80s baby and 90s kid, right? We watched Golden Girls. And there was one episode, I remember seeing it because as soon as I saw it, as soon as it came on and I was watching it, I remembered the episode. But when I tell you this episode summed up my childhood in like 30 minutes or less. In less than 30 minutes, this episode summed up my childhood, right? So, in this episode, it's season 4, episode 21, and it's called Little Sister. And this episode is primarily about the character Rose. So I put a Rose here and her sister Holly, right? So I put the little Holly in the corner, and that was just to help me remember the names, right? So in this episode, Rose's little sister comes, right? And Rose is telling Blanche and Dorothy before she gets there, like, I really don't like her. We've never gotten along. There's something about her. She's always been like really mean to me. And then of course Holly shows up and she is like the opposite. She's telling old St. Olaf stories and Dorothy is like laughing so hard. And Holly's like, doesn't Rose tell St. Olaf stories? And Dorothy's like, all the time. But of course, like if you watch the show, you know Rose's stories make no sense at all. It's whatever. But the episode comes, Holly is taking Blanche and Dorothy out. They're going to like shows. They're going to plays, to the, I guess I think they went to like the opera, the movies. They're going out to eat. Holly's treating, like I said, she's telling all these stories and she's like just this like awesome personality. But throughout the episode, you kind of like, you get like little glimpses, but they don't make it painfully obvious, but you get like little glimpses. As the viewer, you get little glimpses, right? Where like Holly gives Rose directions to this new restaurant they're going to for lunch, but she gives her the wrong directions. And Dorothy is like, well, Holly is not from here. She's here to visit. She's not from here. That's an understandable accident, right? And there are things where like they go out and Rose is like, well, wait, you guys went to this place where it was right around the corner from my job. Why didn't y'all call me? I could have taken a lunch break and I could have meeting y'all there. And Blanche goes, well, we did try to call you. You know, Holly tried to call you and they said that you were out. And that you're also thinking, okay, that's understandable. Maybe she had already gone on lunch break, but it wasn't that. It was that Holly had never made the call. She just lied. There was a time in the episode where Holly's like, oh, I got us theater tickets. She's like, I got 3 theater tickets, even though it's 4 of them. And Rose is like, oh, you didn't get me one. And she's like, oh, well, we thought that you were going to be busy. So like, why would you think that? Who told you I was going to? She's like, we thought you were going to be busy. And Dorothy goes, well, Rose, you can have my ticket. And Rose is like, no. She got the tickets for you guys. I don't want to take your place and, you know, kind of like ruin the vibe or whatever. She's like, that's okay. I'll meet y'all afterwards. And of course they go out afterwards and Holly says she's going to call her and tell her where to meet them, and she doesn't do it. So all throughout there are like these little things that are happening, but like Blanche and Dorothy keep explaining them away as, oh, well, that's understandable. It can happen. She's not from here. You know, little mix up. These things happen. You're overreacting. And when I tell y'all, and then, you know, just to go ahead and sum it up, at the end, Holly ends up sleeping with a guy that, first of all, the ultimate disrespect, right? The ultimate disrespect. Not only did Holly go behind Blanche's back and start sleeping with a guy that Blanche was dating, she does it in her own house. So needless to say, the guy was stupid because you know Blanche lives there, so why are you sleeping with another woman in her house? But Holly is like extremely disrespectful because you're stealing someone's boyfriend and sleeping with them in their own house. I mean, just a crazy level of disrespect. And at the end of the episode, Rose is like, Holly, let's talk. And she tells Holly, she's like, I don't understand why you act like this. And Holly's like, well, maybe I never learned to be the great person that my sister Rose is. Everyone's saying how nice Rose is and how kind Rose is and how everybody likes Rose. Maybe I didn't learn how to be likable. I didn't learn how to make friends. And Rose was like, no, that's BS. You never learned how to keep friends because you're selfish and you only think about yourself. So this is like Rose finally standing up and speaking and saying all the things that she has held on to for so many years. She's finally speaking up and saying them, right? So, and she tells her sister, you're smart, you have a career, you are attractive. Why do you always have to act like such a jackass? And then she tells her sister, like, you know, we're always going to be sisters, but we don't have to be friends. I want you to get out of my life. And then, you know, the episode ends, well, it ends with Dorothy and Blanche apologizing to her for not believing her about all the things she was saying was happening, right? But, that's the end of that episode. In real life, right? In real life, it kind of sucks because in real life, sometimes we don't get that apology, right? And in real life, sometimes that, I don't know why I want to hear like that beast, right? That beast. And in real life, sometimes that person's true character is never discovered. So when I tell y'all this episode summed up my childhood in less than 30 minutes, Holly is my older sister. Holly is the representation of my older sister. Right. And you're probably wondering, like, well, what does this have to do with Chiron? Because this is how my journey of the wounded healer started at a young age, with my self-confidence being destroyed by the person who was supposed to be looking out for me, by me being shut down by the person who is supposed to be in my corner. Right. By me, you know, y'all, it's so many different things, right? Me being made fun of. I never had bullies in school, right? I never had bullies in school. I was like Rose. I was, you know, quiet. I was, you know, likable. People, like, I'm actually really funny, right? You don't really get that aspect of me in these videos because a lot of this is like lessons learned. It's like nothing funny about it. But maybe I'll get to a point where I can actually do some content where my true personality can shine, because I've always been told I'm really funny. All of my cousins always say that I'm like the funniest one, right, of all the cousins. But anyways, like, what was I saying? Because now I got a little off, right? But anyways, growing up, right? My older sister, like I said, that's where I was. I never had bullies in school that bullied me. The only person that ever bullied me was my older sister. And it was very like, traumatic for me, because the bullying, it wasn't like one of those things where you go to school and you're bullied and you come home and you have a safe haven, or the exact opposite where people have parents that are bullies, and that's so much worse. So if you were Chiron, if you were a wounded healer and your bully was a parent, let me extend like my heart out to you, because you had it so much worse. Right? But it's not one of those things, but you know how like for some people, they say like school is a child's safe haven, right? Because they get to get away from like the monster or the beast at home. But it's not like one of those things where like your bully's either at school and your safe haven is at home, so you only have to deal with it for 8 hours, or if it's a lot worse where your bully's at home and then you go to school and those 8 hours of school are your safe haven, and 8 hours is not enough, right? And I'm getting like, you go home and you're like, I'm ducking, I'm dodging, I'm ducking, I'm dodging. You're like trying to avoid that parent as absolutely as much as possible, right? My bully followed me everywhere I went. And I don't mean like literally speaking, I mean figuratively speaking, is that we were, what do they call it? Ghetto twins, Irish twins. I don't know, but we were only 1 year apart. My mom had my sister and then turned around and immediately got pregnant with me. So we're only 1 year apart. So my best years of school were 5th grade when my sister had moved on to middle school, were 8th grade when my sister had moved on to high school, and my senior year was my most fun year when my sister had moved on to college. Every other year I was like in her shadows, right? Or like trying to avoid her as much as possible, because at school and at home, she was the only one that ever made fun of me and picked on me. And the thing is like, to her friends, she showed up as like this really great, nice person. Like everything she did behind the scenes. I'm talking like Holly all the way. She did behind the scenes. To her friends, she was always this super nice, super sweet. Oh, you can always call on her. You can count on her. You know, she's a great friend. To like cousins, because I remember one of my cousins that is between us, like my cousin is older than me, but younger than my sister. She's like right smack dab in the middle, like literally 6 months, right? Right there in the middle. And she, because of her birthday, she ended up being, which you would think that because of her birthday, she would have ended up being in my grade, but she ended up being in my sister's grade. And I'm sorry, y'all. And because they were in the same grade, they ended up being closer, even though there was like a point in time where me and this cousin were like best friends. But I remember this cousin being like, oh, like you must be so lucky to have like, you know, her as your older sister. She's always here for me. Like she's great. She sticks up for me. She does this and that. And I'm just sitting here like, must be nice. Must be nice. And it was like, I tried like telling my cousin the things that my sister does for me, but she of course didn't believe me, because she was like, I've never seen her do that. She's always this and she's always that. And she was like, I think maybe you're just being too sensitive, right? I think you're just being too sensitive. Right? Did I skip over something? Okay, let me go back. I mentioned in my Vedic chart, Chiron being conjunct Mercury and Mars, which is about speaking up and not taking action. In my Western chart, I have Chiron in my 7th house, conjunct Venus and my sun, and opposite my ascendant, right? So of course the ascendant, or the sun is talking about like, being yourself, right? Standing out. Your self-expression, having that stifled when it's conjunct Chiron. Your Venus, feeling unlovable, feeling unworthy when it's conjunct Chiron. And opposite of my ascendant, which means like I struggle with my physical appearance and feeling attractive. And then of course, growing up and having someone who made fun of every single aspect of me, right? It's funny. One of the YouTubers that I follow mentioned something about having a lazy eye and not wanting to be on camera because of that. I actually have. When I tell you, there's this one YouTuber that I follow, and I feel like our stories are more similar than like what she realizes, right? But she mentioned like having a lazy eye. I have a lazy eye. My sister made fun of me because of that. I wore glasses growing up, so I need to go get a new pair of glasses. I dropped my glasses years ago and never went back to get my eyes checked to get a new pair. But wearing glasses, it kind of hides it a little bit. Right. But I have a lazy eye, and I got made fun of her because of that. I'm tall for a female. I'm 5'8". My sister is average height. She's like 5'4", like 5'4", right? So she made fun of me for being tall. She was like, oh, you're like tall. And she was like, something about like, because I remember like this one guy liking me, like whenever a guy that she liked me, she would always make it a point to like make fun of me in front of that person, or to make fun of me just like in front. Like she would never, like, you know, she just like making, not like outwardly, but like trying to tease me and say certain things in front of that person, right? But she would always do it in a way to try to make it seem like, oh, she was just teasing and being funny. But she knew what she was doing, right? And of course, I was always told that I was being too sensitive. And she was like, how does he like you when you know you're almost as tall as him? She was like, you're damn near built like him. I'm not. He's very muscular. I am tall and lanky. We are nowhere near built the same. What are you talking about? Like it was just like a lot, right? But watching that episode of Golden Girls, or rewatching it, because I've seen it before in the past, I just didn't really pay as much attention to it as I did having seen it recently, especially after having just watched that video about Chiron. But watching that made me realize how my sister played a big portion, or a extremely big portion, growing up, and how my journey as the wounded healer actually started. It started in home. It started in childhood, and mine did not start with a school bully. Mine did not start with a parent. Mine started with an older sister. And growing up, once I got older and we got to the stage of being adults, I actually tried to let a lot of that go, right? I tried to let a lot of it go. I had to accept the fact that there was an apology that I was never going to get. This person is never going to admit what they did to me. This person is never going to admit. This person is never, ever. I'm hearing, no, you're never going to get it. Is never going to admit to me, or admit to anyone, or apologize for the things that they did. This person is going to take this to their grave unless they get to a point where they are forced. And the reason I'm doing this video is because, like I said, I used to watch a lot of tarot, but I deleted all of that, scrubbed all of that from my history. And a video popped up on my timeline today, right? Literally less than an hour ago. And I was like, oh, let me shower, get ready, because it's time to do a video. Where this video was like, now that you've learned the lesson, the person that disrespected you, and it specifically said, it said something that like it knew that it was like a female, right? I forget how the title went, but it said something along the lines of, now that you learned the lesson, this person that has disrespected you is finally going to get their karma, right? And I think, like, when I went to the description, it was like, the universe knows what she did, and now they're going to make her pay, to where it signified that it's talking about a female, right? I haven't actually watched the video yet, but seeing that title, I was like, let me go ahead and do this, because this is one of those things where the universe didn't reveal this to me until after I learned the lesson, right? So like I said, once we reached adulthood, I just kind of put all that behind me. I kind of was just like, it's out. It doesn't matter anymore. And there were still several instances. Even in adulthood, where this person was still doing things behind the scenes. Like, I don't want to put like too much of my family members' information out there, but I mentioned before about like my niece and my nephews, right? Which are like, they are the sweetest. I'm hearing like the sweetest thing I've known. A lot of Lauryn Hill energy right now, right? But I remember one time, like, they were little, right? They were babies still, like diapers babies, right? And I was working 12-hour shifts, right? I was working 12-hour shifts. And I remember my sister calling and being like, hey, you work, I was working nighttime, right? Night. My sister calling being like, hey, you work night shift. I know you're like home during the day. I really need to go out and get my hair and my nails done. My husband and I are going to this concert downtown, and we're going to this concert. This is like back when I was living in Georgia before I finally like left the state, right? She's like, we're going to this concert in Atlanta, and I need to go get my hair and stuff done. I have an appointment this morning. When you get off, can you, come to the house and watch the kids? And I'm thinking like, yeah, sure. Whatever. I don't know why I even agreed to it. Still, even like I said, when it came to family, those lessons of letting go were a lot harder to learn versus like people from my past. I can walk away from, no questions asked. When it came to family, that lesson was a little bit harder for me to learn, right? To walk away from family too. Finally got there, right? Finally got there. But anyways, I was like, yeah, sure. So I'm sorry if you keep hearing me blowing. That's me like trying to keep my nose from keep getting clogged, so I don't have to stop and keep wiping my nose while I'm doing the recording. But anyways, so I get off and I go straight there, and I'm watching them, and she ends up being gone all day, right? She ends up being gone all day. And by the time she gets back that evening, I have to start back getting ready for work. So I went all day without getting any sleep because I have these two babies that I'm watching and I can't sleep. I tried to put them down for a nap so I could at least take a nap. When I tell you, like, these little buggers would not go down. And she comes back and she's like, oh, you can go ahead and go. She was like, the babysitter will be here before we have to leave. And she comes back with all these shopping bags. And she left. She went to her hair appointment. She went and got her nails done, and then spent the rest of the day out shopping, looking for a new outfit because she didn't want to wear the outfit she had picked out. So she went out shopping for a new outfit, knowing that I had worked a 12-hour shift that night, and I had to go back and work another 12. So I went an entire 36 hours with no sleep. And literally, y'all, I'm sorry, because I'm like trying not to cry because I was infuriated, but still like wasn't speaking up for myself, right? I left, had to go get ready, went straight to work at this point, I did my 12-hour shift. I was up with kids for 12 hours, so it's 24 hours. And now I'm going back to do a 12-hour shift. Right. Luckily, this was my last 12. I did 3. This is back when I used to work the 3/12s, and I have not worked a 3/12s weekend. It was a 3/12s weekend shift, right? Where I worked Friday night, Saturday night, Sunday night, and I love that shift, right? They were like, oh, we have this weekend shift that's open, and they were like, we're thinking about the job that I was working for was like, oh, we're thinking about getting rid of it because no one wants it. We tried it because we found some people who were like, hey, let's do this. People who work during the week can do 410s and then we can do 312s. And that way everything is covered. And, you know, people who don't want to work the weekends don't have to work the weekends and they get a 3-day weekend. And then those of us who really ain't doing nothing on the weekends that we can't do Monday through Thursday, we can work the weekends. I think the ones of us that work the weekends, we liked it because I don't give a damn if I'm working Friday, Saturday, and Sunday night, because I ain't trying to be out with and all the hoopla. Anyways, I don't, you know, like I said, I don't like big crowds. There's too much energy. It's too overwhelming. And I don't like it, right? So I was like, there's nowhere that I'm trying to be on a Friday, Saturday night surrounded by a bunch of people. Those of us who work the weekend, we like it because we were like, we can work 3 days a week and have 4 days off, right? That was the only thing that we cared about. So I was like, oh, yeah. I said, wait, don't get rid of that weekend position. Give it to me. Because it'd be a whole lot easier for you to find someone to come in here and work 4 nights a week and have their weekends off, because that's what most people want. It's going to be much easier for you to find someone to take my old shift than it will for you to find someone to take this weekend shift. And that way you don't have to get rid of it. For the people who actually want it, right? So I absolutely loved it, right? So I had already worked my Friday night shift and came back and, like, you know, slept my few hours. And then it was that Saturday, right? It was that Saturday. I'm trying to remember. I worked my Friday night shift. No. I worked my Friday night shift, slept. I worked my Saturday shift. No, because Saturday was the day of the concert. I'm trying to remember, because I remember, oh, no, I was off that. Because I remember when I got off, I went straight home. I didn't have to go back to work. That's right. I forget why. I was off that Sunday. A coworker asked me, one of the coworkers who worked Thursday, needed to be somewhere for their child's school event on Thursday. So a coworker who worked Thursday asked me to take their 10-hour shift Thursday and they would switch with my Sunday shift. So that's what was it. Cause I was like, I remember I already worked 3 shifts, but that doesn't make sense because the concert was on Saturday. So I worked Thursday, Friday. And then, it was that getting off that Friday night shift, that Saturday morning, I watched my niece and my nephew all day Saturday and then had to turn around and go back to work Saturday night. Having been up all Friday night, up all Saturday, and then having to work, like I said, like 36 hours straight of no sleep. And when I got off after working that Saturday night shift, I got off that Sunday morning. My sister, where she lived, was actually closer to my job than where I lived. I freaking hate Atlanta traffic, right? I freaking hate it. I was so happy to get away from Atlanta. But where I lived was further out, right? I had like a commute that I had to do to get to work because I didn't want to be anywhere near the city, right? So I got off that Sunday morning and I was exhausted. I don't even know how I got through the night, right? I was exhausted. And lucky for me, it was a slow night. Friday nights are slow. Saturday nights are the slowest. And then Sunday nights tend to be busy because it bleeds over into Monday morning. But thankfully it was slow that night. So I was like, I got to be off of my feet and actually sit down some. But when I got off that morning, I was exhausted and like trying to drive home, I almost ran my car off the road because I fell asleep at the wheel and almost ran my car off. Thankfully, the like of my car going over the little, whatever you call those little bumps or things, was enough to like wake me up. But I almost drove my car off the road and I had to pull over. And I don't even know where I was. I pulled over on the next exit, pulled into a gas station parking lot and slept. I slept for hours. I got off of work at, 7:30 that morning. I pulled over into a parking lot and I think I woke back up around like 2. I woke back up around 2. I slept for hours in a gas station parking lot. I turned my car off because I was not going to sit there with my car running on for a long time. So by the time I woke up, this is like Georgia, right? By the time I woke up, I was like drenched in sweat. And when I woke up, I was still exhausted, but I had gotten enough sleep where I was like, okay, now I can finish the drive home to get home. And then after that, I was like, I need to leave. I need to move, right? I need to move because I was like, I don't know how to say no. I was still, this is like like I said, my early 20s, right? So I was still struggling to say this before I got to the point where I was like picking every battle. And unfortunately for me, when I got to the point where I was picking every battle, I was picking it with the people who really, really didn't deserve it, right? The people who were being affected by me hitting that stage of like enough is enough got a side of me that they really didn't deserve, right? But anyways, this is like way longer than it's supposed to be. But that's when I decided like I need to get out of Georgia because if I don't, this person is going to keep taking advantage of me because I don't know how to say no. And that person, like my sister, I don't know why I'm saying that person. My sister she was so selfish for that. She was so selfish for that. And like never even apologized. Like when she came back after having been shopping all day, knowing that I had to go to work, there was no, I'm sorry. There was no, can I do this or can I do this to make it up for you? She didn't even pay me. Not that I asked for payment because my niece and my nephew, but she didn't even pay me for having babysat them all day, right? But turned around and paid a babysitter that was coming to babysit them that night. But, it was the selfish, right? The selfish. And even when I physically got away from this person, right? When I started my spiritual journey, I kept having all of these dreams, right? All of these dreams about my sister being attacked, right? My sister's in spirituality too. And it's this whole thing too, where like this stuff actually started back up again since we've entered spirituality. Because I went and got my first read, and yes, there were things that I was told that I needed to do, that I needed to work on, that I needed to take care of. But it also ended beautifully with, when I do my shadow work, I have big blessings coming in, right? My cousin. Oh, I didn't even realize this thing had stopped recording. I'm sitting here just talking. My older cousin, when he went and got his, he had the same things that he needed to work on. But when he did, he had like big blessings coming in. My little brother, same thing. He had things he needed to work on. But when he did, he had big blessings coming in. So then our older sister went and got a reading, and her reading was all negative. It was all, you need to clear this, you need to do this, you need to do this. She was told she needed to have a ceremony immediately because she had like demonic entities and all these things on her. And that if she didn't get that taken care of, she was going to be facing a hard road. And she got pissed. She was like, oh, that reader doesn't know what she's talking about. Oh, this and that. Oh, this and that. She started saying all these things. And my cousin was like, hey, like, that reader's been doing this for over 20 years. You might want to calm down and watch your mouth, right? Because that person, even though you're not talking to them, can still feel energy. And they know that if, like I said, like words are spells. So be careful what you're speaking, because that person is heavily protected. And my sister got pissed because she was like, she can't know. She was like, we're all in the same family. So how can y'all have all these blessings and I don't? Because you have too much shit that's on you. She can't even get to that. And it's not that you don't have blessings coming in. It's just that you have so much karmic energy. You have so many demons. You have so many negative attachments. We can't even get there because we got to take care of all this shit first. Whereas everyone else had, like me, it was more of like self-esteem things and getting over this and getting over that and getting over this hurdle. It wasn't like I didn't have no negative shit attached to me, right? Excuse my language, y'all. I didn't have like a bunch of negative attachments on me, right? My brother, the same thing. It was like, you need to get over this hurdle, get over this, get through this karmic lesson. It wasn't like he had things attached to him. It was different, right? So we could get to the good, right? But like, it was a thing of like, when she got her reading and she didn't like what was told to her, I don't know why, but all of a sudden it's like all those things from the past of her doing little things here and there, making little comments here and there. It's like all of that stuff started back up again, right? It started back up again. And I'm like, well, why are you taking it out on me? Like, why are you taking it out on me just because you didn't get the reading that you wanted? So my sister started like dabbling around and practicing with like voodoo and hoodoo. And, she started doing like learning like different spell works, and I started having dreams of her attacking me, right? Of her attacking me with spell works. I started having dreams of her intentionally putting me in dangerous situations. I just started having all these dreams, and there were like things that she was doing, like actually in like the 3D, right? There would be like family events that she would intentionally try to leave me out of. If there was information that the family was like, oh, we're going to get together and do this. And they'd be like, oh, well, tell me, right? And she'd be like, oh, well, she would like, I know my grandma was calling different family members saying, oh, well, I have this going on. I'm calling everybody, letting everybody know. She got to my sister and called my sister, and she was like, hey, I'm going to call, next. And my sister was like, well, oh, don't worry about it. She was like, oh, her schedule is this, and she works nights, and she, gets all grumpy if you call her during the day. Go ahead and, I'll let her know. And of course, she never let me know. So like, my grandma had been planning things for months, and then I ended up getting a call, and my grandma was like, look, it's been months. I know you're busy, but you haven't called me back. She was like, are you going or not? The event is next week. Everyone else in the family is going. And I'm like, what event? what are you talking about? No, I'm sorry. Before I even spoke to my grandma, my cousin mentioned it, and I was like, what are you talking about? My cousin was like, you got to answer your phone. And I was like, I'd never missed a call, but okay. Then my dad called and was like, hey, are you going? I didn't see like, he's like, they were getting like shirts and everything for everybody and doing like the room assignments. I didn't see your name on there. And my dad was like, if you want, my dad is like, he's a nice guy. He's a great guy. He's just oblivious. Right. He was like, if you need a room, if you RSVP too late and the rooms were gone, he was like, you can, bunk with me. Just, let me know where you're going. And I'm like, going where? What are you talking about? And my dad's like, you got to do better about calling people back. Like, this don't make no sense. And I'm just sitting here like, what in the F is everybody? It's like the second time. And so like my grandma ends up reaching out, and she's like, hey, why didn't you ever call me back? She's like, you got to work and you can't go, or if you need to work, I understand. Just let me know, because, you haven't been coming to the last few family events. And I told her, I was like, well, because the last couple of events that we've had, by the time I'm finding out, it's too late. So I work in healthcare. I don't work a desk job like my sister and a couple of my cousins do, or and stuff like that. I was like, I don't have a desk job. I have to put in because my cousins and my sister have a job where they can literally go in Monday and be like, yeah, I'm going to put in my PTO for the rest of the week, right? They can do that. I was like, I can't do that because we're short staffed. Other people have taken off. It has to be approved. The schedule has to be redone to make sure that there's coverage. I can't take off last minute. So I said, if you guys want me to be places, y'all have to let me know ahead of time. And my grandma was like, this has been out for months. She was like, she's like, I spoke to your sister months ago. Your sister told me that she called you, and she told me that you said you were trying to figure things out and that you never got back to her. Y'all, my sister never made that call. She never made that call. She never called me and told me anything, right? And then my grandma was like, yeah, she said, I sent it out an email. And she was like, y'all, and this is like the crazy thing. I have an old email, an old Yahoo that somehow got like overcome with like spam and viruses. So I had to create a new email account. So my grandma did send me the email, but she sent it to my Yahoo, which I haven't had that email account in years, right? Because it got overcome with spam. So she ended up, I don't know how they got on the topic, but I know like she told my sister, she was like, well, I don't have her new email address. Can you, forward her the email, right? Can you forward her the email? And my sister was like, yeah, sure. So my sister, I don't even know why she did this. This is how like this finally came to light, right? I don't know why she did it. My sister literally forwarded me the email about the event like 2 weeks before the event was supposed to take place. And the original email that was sent out like seven months prior, right? So that's where she made, this is where she finally like made her mistake, right? This is where she finally made her mistake. So she forwarded me the email. When she forwarded me the email, of course it had the date and time stamp. So when my grandma called me and was talking to me and all this stuff, I ended up screenshotting when the email was sent, when I received it, which at that point was 2 weeks before the event. And my grandma was calling me the week before. And I texted to her and I said, Grandma, I said, no one ever called me and told me anything. And I said, that email that you sent out 7 months ago, if you look at the date and time stamp of when it was sent to my email, it was just sent to my email last week. I just found out about this event last week that you've been planning for the past seven months. And my grandma was like, well, no, that can't be. She said, I spoke to your sister, and your sister told me months ago that she called you and talked to you about it. Your sister told me months ago that she sent you the email with all the information. This doesn't make any sense. And I was like, yep, that's about the same thing that I'm feeling. Don't make any sense to me because people keep calling me, asking me about it, and I have no idea what they're talking about. So I don't know what happened, but I do know that my grandma reached out to my dad, who reached out to my sister. I don't know what was said, but I do know that my sister was like pissed for a while, and we haven't spoken since. We have not spoken since. I don't know what my grandma or my dad said, but she had finally after all of these years, and it was so insignificant. Like, I don't know why, because she could have just as easily just said she sent the email like she did, and then like, never actually sent it. But I guess she wanted to send it so that she had proof to show someone, oh, here's where I forwarded her the email, and maybe try to like hide the date, but be like, yeah, see, it's right here in my thing. Here's where I sent her the email. So she can't say she got it, but that's where she screwed herself up, right? So finally, it came to light that not only had she not told me anything about it, and not only had this been going on for years, because I told my grandma right then, I said, all of these events that y'all are asking why I'm not at, I haven't heard about. And I said, no one is calling me directly. You guys are all calling her, and she's telling you that she's passing the information on to me. And by the time I hear these things, it's like a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks before the event's about to take place, and it's too late for me to take time off work. I said, this has been happening for years, and for the first time, she actually got caught up in her own lies, because now there was physical evidence, right? And she had told my dad, she had told my grandma, but she had done this months ago and she never did, right? So I've not spoken to that sister since, right? But even since then, like I said, I've had dreams about her spiritually attacking me, trying to send things my way, of her intentionally putting me in dangerous situations. And the thing about it is, even when I have dreams where like entities are coming for her, things are trying to attack her, I was still in this headspace where I was like, but it's family, but it's family, but it's family. So I kept trying to save her, kept trying to save her, right? Kept stepping in, kept intervening. And I finally, this happened like, I said like maybe like just a month ago, maybe 2 months ago, maybe like a month or two ago, where I finally had the dream where something was happening, where she was trying to put me in harm's way. And I was like, you know what? No, I'm not doing this. So I left her, right? She was trying to put me in harm's way while she escaped. And I flipped the script, and I ended up leaving her to suffer the fate that she was trying to build for me, right? I left her in the mess that she tried, the chaos she tried to create for me. And ever since then, it felt like this huge weight was lifted off of me, right? So then, of course, because of how my experience here on earth is going, it's not until I learn the lesson, right? It's not until I overcome it that I'm being revealed what this was. So this particular person, like I said, from early childhood, right? From childhood through adulthood, had a lot to do with creating the chaos surrounded around me being a wounded healer, right? Created a lot of the chaos, right? A lot of the doubt, a lot of the frustration, a lot of the feelings of unworthiness, a lot of the feelings of being unseen, of feeling like an outcast, a lot of the as far as like my ascendant and Chiron, opposite the ascendant, struggling with physical appearance, making fun of how I look, making fun of how I talk, right? Just making fun of every aspect of me. This person has a lot. You know what's funny is that I have no idea. I've not been shown yet. This is like one of the things that, like, I'm still on this journey. I've not been shown yet who my sister's higher self is. But I did watch one video where I was told that sometimes we have like certain entities, right, that kind of follow us through each lifetime, through each lesson, because they are following us. They are like intentionally trying to stifle our growth. And sometimes we have it where we have like our higher self have those that love us so deeply that they take on these harsh assignments in order to help us learn the lesson, right? So they're like, hey, I will be the one to destroy you so that you can overcome it and build yourself and learn this lesson so that we can elevate, our higher selves can elevate, right? And for a while, I tried to convince myself that like that was it, right? But unfortunately, that's not it, because I've had so many dreams of like my sister and I like being like traveling together on different timelines, right? Like I've had dreams of me in other timelines, me living in other like centuries and stuff like that, where my sister is still there. Of course, we don't always look the same, but it's still the same energy, same person. But like every time, it's like she's always the one that's trying to bring me down. She's always the one that's trying to destroy me. I had one dream where she tried to turn me in, right? She tried to turn me in to save herself. Right. And then it turns out in the dream, it's like, it was this really weird dream where they were like on this witch hunt. Right. And she turned me in for being a witch. And then I had to go through this test where they were like, are you really a witch, or are you like a divine being? Are you are you a chosen one? Are you a divine being, or are you just someone practicing witchcraft? So they put me through this test, and it turns out I was a divine being. So like everybody stepped back and they were like, oh, like the high priest that was giving me the test was like, do not touch her. Do not do anything to her. She is a divine being and we will get really bad karma for messing with her. And then they turned on my sister and was like, oh, you tried to turn in a divine being. Let us do the test on you to make sure that you're not the witch. And it turns out she was the witch. But because I was a divine being and I had the power, I falsified her test answers. They were giving us this test where you had to, it had something to do with like eggs and something. So what I was doing was I was hard boiling the egg. So like they would pick up an egg, they would shake it, they would hear the yolk, they say, okay, this is a fresh one. And they would try to crack it to see like, what color the yolk would turn when it would come. But I kept hard boiling. So as soon as they shake it and make sure that it was a fresh egg, I would instantly hard boil it so that when they cracked it, they couldn't do the yolk test. And I did it. They went through an entire carton of eggs, 12 eggs, trying to do this test, each time shaking it and making sure it was fresh. And each time they cracked it, it turned hard boiled. And I was the one that was doing it, but I was making them think that the spirit was doing it to save her because she was a divine. So I made them believe she was a divine being when really she was the witch, because I was saving her from the chaos that she was trying to once again create for me. And I've had so many dreams where I've saved this person, right? But like I said, I tried for a while to convince myself that maybe her higher self was someone who truly loved me, who was trying to save me. But it's really not any of that. Her higher self, unfortunately, is someone, or I don't even know if she has a higher self. She might just be like a lower vibrational being who keeps following me everywhere, trying to destiny swap. My sister is trying to destiny swap with me. She's trying to ride my coattails, and she follows me every freaking timeline I go to, trying to pull the same crap. She has somehow latched her energy onto me, following me through every timeline, trying to pull the same crap because she's trying to destiny swap with me, and it fails every time. And then once I finally learn the lesson, once I finally end that cycle, that's when my blessings come in, right? So if I've reached that point now in this karmic cycle where I have completely severed those ties, I have learned those lessons, and now like I said, like it's weird because like I had this dream like I said, it was like a month or two ago or whatever. And now all of this is finally coming to light. The lesson is coming to light. And this is also at a time where I've been having a lot of good things flowing in for me, like a lot of good things flowing in for me. And I know instinctively that this is just the beginning, right? But it's time. Like I said, I saw that video today and I don't know what spirit has in mind. And to be honest, it's none of my business. It's none of my business. Whatever spirit brings this person, it's undoubtedly something that they've brought upon themselves. Spirit is only manifesting it into the 3D. But this person is about to start going through some heavy tower moments. And I don't want to be anywhere near it when it happens. But anyways, like I said, the last video was about like sisterly love and two sisters that get along. And if you have a sister that's actually there for you, that wants to show up for you, that will be the answer to your problems, like lean on that sister, right? Especially if you're a divine feminine, there is nothing like having a sister that is a divine feminine in your corner, right? In your corner. Lean on that person. You guys lean on each other. But if you have a sister that is a karmic that is in your life, I'm telling you, like, get rid of this person. Get rid of this person. I know it's going to be hard. I know it's going to be difficult. I know it's not going to be easy. But get rid of this person for good and watch how the blessings start pouring in. This person is only being shielded because of their proximity to you. This person is only being shielded because they are using your divine protection. They are shielding, and this person knows, undoubtedly they know what they're doing. That's why they're so envious of you, because they know who you are. Even if you're going through imposter syndrome and you're still struggling to accept, right? They know who you are, and they are using your energy as a shield. But you need to, I'm hearing like, what is it? Sever those ties, decapitate, something, preach. You got people all around you. They're going to try themselves to down you, get them squares up at your circle. Yeah. Especially if you have like Chiron square. If you got Chiron square, either sun, moon, ascendant, what is it, Mercury, Mars, Venus, probably this is for you, right? Because I keep hearing get them squares about your circle. But anyways, yes, it is definitely time. Like I said, for me, it's a sister. For you, it might be a parent, right? It might, I don't even know who else it would be. It could be a friend, but I would hope that getting rid of an old friend that treats you like this would be a little bit easier. But if it's a long-standing friend, it might be difficult as well. But especially if like this person is a family member, it might be difficult to sever those ties. But like once you finally do, right, that's what you need to let go of. This year of 9 is about letting go. For some of us, it's about letting go of people that we've held on to for so long, for too long. For others, it's about letting go of fears, right? But it's this year of 9 is about letting go. So let go of whatever, whoever it is that is holding you back, and watch how next year in 2026, the year of 1, watch how the blessings start coming in. And this person's going to start, especially next year. If you let these people go now, next year, you're going to start seeing those people having some heavy tower money. I'm getting, for some of them, it's going to have to do with the economy. For some of them, it's going to have to do with the economy. It's going to have to do with their financial stability. For others, I'm getting relationships, marriages are going to fall apart. It's going to be like a war for someone. It's going to be a little bit of everything. But it's going to be like a whirlwind. Like, it's going to get real catastrophic for those people, right? But either way, like I said, the karma that they have, the karmic debt that they have to pay back, they themselves, right? So do not try to step in and save these people. They're going to have to pay back the debt that they created, right? Spirit is saying that it's time to pay up, right? It's time to pay up. Anyways, y'all, this one was super, super, super long. So there's probably no way I'm going to be able to get this uploaded today, because with it being so long, it's going to take forever to upload. But probably I can get it uploaded before the end of the weekend. But anyways, as always, if you made it this far, thank you for listening. Bye.